Hello everybody and welcome back, because the Toronto Blue Jays have a genuinely brutal decision to make this coming spring training, and it's going to leave at least one very talented pitcher extremely unhappy. We're talking about the starting rotation here, and the problem, if you can even call it a problem, is that the Blue Jays have 6 guys who could legitimately start for almost any rotation in baseball. But here's the catch. They only get to pick 5 to start the season. Sure, they could theoretically go to a 6-man rotation, but let's be real, that's highly unlikely to happen early in the season. So with 6 genuinely capable starting pitchers competing for 5 rotation spots, which ones are going to make the cut? Who's going to be the odd man out? And how is this decision going to impact the Blue Jays' championship aspirations? This is the kind of high-quality problem that contending teams dream about having, but it's still a problem that needs to be solved. Let's break down each pitcher, analyze their strengths and weaknesses, and figure out how this rotation battle is going to shake out. Let's take a look at the depth chart for the Toronto Blue Jays starting rotation and examine these 6 guys. Every single one of them looks like they could be a legitimate starting pitcher at some point for the Blue Jays, but to begin the season, somebody has to be knocked out of the rotation. The question is, who? Now, let me start by saying that I genuinely think at some point during the season, all 6 of these guys will end up starting games for the Toronto Blue Jays. It's really just a question of who is going to earn those 5 rotation jobs on March 27th, opening day. Who are going to be the individuals that we're walking into the season with in those starting spots? A lot of these guys, while there's absolutely tons of promise and upside, also come with significant question marks. You could legitimately have questions around Dylan Cease and Shane Bieber and Trey Savage. We're going to talk about all of those concerns in detail. However, I do want to just take Kevin Gausman and put him in his own separate category, his own tier, because he's effectively in a bubble by himself. In terms of questions surrounding their performance or their longevity or their ability to stay healthy, I would argue that Kevin Gausman has the absolute fewest concerns of anyone in this rotation. Really, the only tiny baby question associated with him is, well, he's 35 years old now, so is he going to start declining? Is age finally going to catch up with him after we really haven't seen any meaningful decline in his performance before? So yeah, Kevin Gausman is safe. He's locked into this rotation no matter what happens. And even though there are legitimate questions about Dylan Cease and his ability to replicate his best form, I think in regards to his rotation job, that's also completely safe. When you're paying a guy $210 million over 7 years, you have to assume he's going to be starting every 5th game regardless of how spring training goes. For me, it's really just a question of what caliber Dylan Cease we're going to get. Is he going to be the Cy Young candidate version of Dylan Cease? Or is he going to be something less than that? Those 2 guys, Gausman and Cease, they're absolutely going to be in the rotation opening day. That's locked in stone. Shane Bieber is also likely going to be in the rotation. In fact, you know what? Gun to my head, I would probably bet my life on Shane Bieber being one of the 5 starters opening day. That being said though, there is a legitimate possibility that at some point he could become a bullpen arm, or depending on his health situation walking into the season, you might see him start the year on the injured list. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but right as the season finished and the World Series ended, Shane Bieber was dealing with some forearm fatigue, wasn't he? Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Keegan Matheson came out with an article just a few days ago reminding everyone about this concern. He asked the question directly in the article. Is Shane Bieber 100% healthy, and will he have a completely normal spring training? That's an honest, legitimate question that needs to be answered. Part of the reason why the Blue Jays have 6 capable starting pitchers is specifically because things like injuries and health concerns might pop up. It's not just about who's performing at their best in spring training. If Shane Bieber, like we mentioned, did have forearm fatigue at the end of last season, and if that's carrying over into spring training and he's not ramping up as quickly as the other guys, well, maybe he becomes the obvious choice to take a back seat. Maybe the smart move is to say, okay Shane, let's be cautious here. Let's ramp you up slowly down in AAA or put you on a short injured list stint to start the season and get you fully stretched out properly. Pitchers and catchers are reporting tomorrow as of when this is being recorded, so we're going to get a real glimpse very soon of whether Shane Bieber's health is going to be a legitimate question or concern going into spring training. Shane Bieber has all the upside in the world for me. If he's healthy, the sky is genuinely the limit. But the health question is really, really crucial with somebody like him. If he could be fully healthy and guaranteed to stay that way, then he's an absolute no-brainer for the rotation. But if early in spring training you start getting even just a whiff of concern, even just a hint of, oh no, maybe Shane Bieber is feeling a little something in his forearm again, well, the Blue Jays are definitely going to be cautious. They don't want to create a bigger problem by rushing him. If they can avoid injuries by resting him earlier in the season and bringing him along slowly, I genuinely think Toronto is going to do exactly that. Because down the stretch in a crucial playoff push, Shane Bieber feels like he's going to be a really important piece for this team. I know I'm getting way ahead of myself thinking about October, but you have to start planning for these things early in the season. So Shane Bieber, there are definitely question marks surrounding his health. Trey Savage, on the other hand, has question marks surrounding a lot of different things. Not really his health necessarily, but more about his longevity and durability. Could he realistically hold up for a full 162-game season? That's something the Blue Jays front office really needs to think carefully about. Do you want to burn all of those valuable innings early in the season, or do you want to save them strategically for later in the year when games matter most? And then, of course, there's just the fundamental fact that Trey Savage is still the organization's #1 prospect. He's still only 22 years old, even though it feels like this guy has done absolutely everything there is to do already. He only pitched 14 innings for the Blue Jays in the regular season last year. That's it. 14 innings. Look, Trey Savage might be an outlier among prospects. We have seen that happen recently with guys like Paul Skeens, who was able to walk straight from college baseball over to the big league mound and throw 180 to 200 innings like it's no big deal whatsoever. Trey Savage could absolutely be that kind of guy. But we haven't really seen a lot of that type of rapid development, especially coming from the Blue Jays player development system specifically. Last year, I believe Savage only threw just over 100 professional innings total when you combine the minors, the major leagues, and maybe a little bit of postseason work. So with that reality in mind, is he really going to jump all the way to 160, 170, 180, or even 200 innings? Because that's effectively what you're asking from him if he gets the rotation job right out of spring training. We genuinely don't know if he's necessarily going to be capable of handling that kind of workload increase. The question everyone wants answered is, will Trey Savage get the opening day start or at least a rotation spot? I think as long as he's healthy and he looks good in spring training, the Blue Jays are going to give him every opportunity to earn that job. It just comes down to whether he looks genuinely good and ready. If he looks good, if his stuff is sharp, if he's commanding his pitches, then throw him in the rotation. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't chase that incredible upside. But the other guys matter here as well in this decision. If everybody else is looking really, really good simultaneously, if Shane Bieber is fully healthy, if Cody Ponce has an absolutely torrid spring training with dominant performances, well, then you start thinking about it differently. Who's the one guy that you know has minor league options remaining? Who's the one guy that you want to protect more than anyone else for the long-term future? Probably Trey Savage. If everyone else is looking absolutely red hot and firing on all cylinders, maybe you do want to strategically save some of those valuable Trey Savage innings for later in the season when they matter most. Just food for thought there. That's genuinely true. If you start Savage out in AAA to begin the season, you can use those options later and bring him up whenever you need him. You might not need to push him to his absolute limits early, which protects his arm long-term. You can tell the AAA coaches, okay, yeah, you're going to start him in games, but it's 3 or 4 innings maximum, not 5 or 6. We're slowly still ramping him up. We're essentially prolonging his spring training development because this is also, I believe, his first official spring training invite as a legitimate rotation candidate. So that's honestly a really valid point. If everyone is performing great in camp, it might be Trey Savage who ends up being the odd guy out, at least to start the year. However, there are some significant question marks with other guys as well. The next guy on this list is Jose Berrios. Keegan Matheson also brought up Jose Berrios in his article, specifically asking, what's the plan with Jose Berrios going forward? He brings up the whole situation about Berrios not agreeing with the team's decision to leave him out of the postseason rotation. And now the Blue Jays have added other talented arms to the roster. There's an obvious push happening when you see that they're paying these new guys significant money. These guys have performed better recently, and Berrios had a 4-point-something ERA last year while also dealing with injuries. So there are legitimate question marks around him. We've talked about this extensively on the channel. I think people are being way too hard on Jose Berrios right now for his performance issues last year and how the season ended for him. I still genuinely believe Jose Berrios is a good pitcher who can slot into any rotation role and just give you quality innings. That thing we don't know about Trey Savage, whether he can give you innings over a full season, we absolutely know Jose Berrios can at least give you those innings consistently. At the end of the day, I still feel like Jose Berrios, in terms of proven commodities on this pitching staff, is one of the most proven and reliable. I don't think he's going to get Cy Young votes or anything like that, but that's perfectly okay because you can still have a pitcher who provides tremendous value with a 3.8 ERA and 32 starts to his name. And for a large part of his career, those two things have been pretty consistent with Jose Berrios. Last year, people completely forget about how legitimately good his first half was. His first half performance was really solid and impressive. And then everyone's reaction was, oh well, of course in the second half people figured him out. Guys, he's been pitching in the major leagues for a long period of time. I really don't think it has anything to do with people suddenly figuring him out. I think it has everything to do with the fact that he got hurt and couldn't execute the way he wanted to or was capable of executing in the first half. He's been in the league for almost 10 years at this point. Teams would have figured him out by now if that was the issue. It's not like a Brendan Little situation where, oh, clearly the scouting report is out there now. No, Jose Berrios got hurt, his arm started falling apart, and then the underperformances followed. I look at somebody like Jose Berrios, and similarly to Shane Bieber, if he's healthy walking into the season, I feel really good about stretching him out and giving him innings. Honestly, take these innings early because we don't really need to care about his long-term future with the team right now. Let's get everything we can out of him this year. Exactly. Let's get all the value we can because Berrios also has an opt-out clause after this season. So if you pitch him this year and he gets enough innings and he looks even decent, he'll probably opt out of his contract and leave as a free agent. I don't necessarily want him to leave if he has a genuinely good year because obviously I'd want productive players to stay. But the point is that him potentially opting out kind of solves some roster problems down the line with logjams and future planning. I still think Jose Berrios is a legitimately good player. I still want him to pitch meaningful innings for this team. And you're right, we all forget that Jose Berrios had that terrible 2022 season with a 5+ ERA and bounced back immediately the following year. This past year wasn't even close to being as bad as that 2022 disaster. So obviously he's capable of bouncing back. He's done it before and he can absolutely do it again. I honestly think how the Blue Jays are going to handle the Jose Berrios situation is pretty straightforward. Hey man, come to spring training, show that you still have good stuff, compete for your spot. And if he looks good in camp, throw him in the rotation. Why not give him that opportunity? This is all assuming, of course, that Berrios actually does look good in spring training. At the end of the day, you want to extract value from his contract. You want to utilize your veteran pitcher if you realistically can. If he looks absolutely terrible in camp, then I'll eat my words and admit I was wrong. At the end of the day, the Blue Jays have to win games. I know it's all about preserving young arms and managing workloads over 162 games, but you don't want to be sacrificing 1 out of every 5 games to start the season because those losses will add up quickly. So yeah, Berrios has got to look good, but I still genuinely like his chances. Cody Ponce brings a whole lot of questions because, even though he's promising and won the KBO MVP award, the guy hasn't played in MLB in years at this point. And the last time we saw him pitching in the major leagues, he was flat out terrible, folks. There's no sugarcoating that. Now, he clearly figured out a bunch of things overseas. He worked on his mechanics, developed some new pitches, completely changed the way he attacks hitters and sequences his arsenal. The results in Korea clearly show significant improvement. He's a completely different pitcher now. It's not even fair to relate current Cody Ponce to what he did in previous MLB seasons because it feels like he's an entirely new guy. But we genuinely don't know who that guy is yet in the context of Major League Baseball. When you look at Ponce's big league experience, he does have experience coming out of the bullpen as well. That's something the Blue Jays might seriously consider if there's a rotation logjam. He's here on a 3-year contract. Well, do we start you out maybe coming out of the pen if everyone's clicking and looking great? You have bullpen experience. Let's get you warmed up and accustomed back to major league hitting and pitching. They very well might do exactly that. Honestly, overall when looking at this entire team in this rotation situation, it is genuinely a tough decision to make because there are legitimate arguments for all of these guys to be in the starting rotation. I think ultimately it's going to come down to a few critical factors. Health is number one. If someone gets injured in camp, immediately the problem is solved. Okay, you hit the injured list, these 5 guys start. If it comes down to performance issues in spring training, if someone looks terrible, well okay, you're the guy heading to the bullpen or we're sending you to AAA if you're Trey Savage with options. That's what it comes down to. But if everyone's legitimately popping off and everyone looks great, then that's going to come down to Blue Jays management making a very tough decision. Someone won't be happy with the outcome, but that's honestly a great problem to have for a contending team. So folks, let us know your thoughts about all of this in the comments down below. How do you see this rotation battle shaking out? Gausman and Cease are locked in, obviously. Bieber is probably locked in as well. But after those 3, where are the dominoes going to fall? Who's getting that 4th and 5th spot, and who's the odd man out? Drop your predictions right now. If you enjoyed this breakdown and you want more Blue Jays spring training coverage, smash that like button and hit subscribe so you don't miss any of our content as pitchers and catchers report. Thanks for watching and as always,